Yo, yo, yo. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. We are tonight very, very excited to be welcoming Chris and Andrea from Mullineux to the party. It's been a week full on of tastings this week, considering we've been housebound and locked down. Thought I'd put on some lipstick for you all today. Oh, hi James Milton. Hi Ryan. Hi everyone. We're just waiting for the lovely Chris and Andrea to join us. Thanks for those of you who joined us on Wednesday for the lovely Julian Grounds from Craggy Range. What an excellent tasting that was. He's quite dishy too, that man, isn't he? So really enjoyed getting to know him further and getting to understand the Craggy Range wine story, getting to grips with the wines that he was talking about, and understanding more of his background and what he's bringing to the party too. So very, very fun. Let's get the lovely Chris and Andrea. Here they are, connecting through. Hey! There he is.
Hi,
Hey,
how are
Tim,
you?
how are you?
Very good, and you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. It's been an age.
Yeah, it's been more than a year, I think, since we saw you. We were in London. So it's great to see you again. I haven't got my lipstick on. I see you. You're
Do you know what?
looking fantastic.
It's isolation and like lockdown here. I was like, it's Friday night. I'm going all out.
Cool. Yeah. So I've come straight from the winery, so I'm still in my a bit disheveled, but
We'll let
all
you
good.
in your lip.
Yeah.
Nice to see you anyway. So thank you for joining us on Friday evening. We're very excited to be tasting wines this evening that we have. I know you're going to be the course of the next kind of half an hour. Woohoo! Great news. I'm really excited tonight. I obviously have a massive New Zealand following, and being I've travelled a lot around. I haven't any travel in South Africa, so I'm ready to ask questions about Mullineux, and who you are and what you guys are doing, so we can unleash the rest of the world over here.
Cool.
So tell us a bit about Mullineux and you and first.
Cool. Well, firstly, thank you so much for having us here this evening. Andrea will be with us shortly. We're getting ready for bottling on Monday, so she's running a bit late at the winery, but she'll be joining us pretty soon. So apologies she's not here already. And also thank you so much for your support. We're super proud that you list and work with our wine. So thank you. Can you hear me okay? There's a little bit of kind of
background
stuttering on your side, but can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay.
Okay, awesome, cool. So we're a small family winery in the Swartland wine region. So for those of you who've been to South Africa, north of Cape Town, kind of up the west coast, Swartland it's a pretty warm, dry region. So a really fantastic Mediterranean climate that lends itself to grapes like Syrah, Grenache, Cinsault, Carignan. So those are really grapes that we love to focus on and work with. We've also got a huge heritage here in South Africa with Chenin, especially old vine Chenin. We work a lot with Chenin. We've got our own clones and kind of own style of Chenin here in South Africa. And what's nice is tonight we're pouring two of those wines. So one of our Chenins and then a Syrah as well. So really a great expression of what we do here. Swartland being warm and dry is a fantastic place for more, I suppose, more natural farming. We don't have a lot of rainfall. It's kind of dry, so it's a really easy place to farm a bit more naturally. We don't have a lot of disease pressure. There's not a lot of need for spraying all kinds of fungicides, that kind of thing. And also, it's a pretty tough place for weeds to grow. So we can farm really nicely with just cover crops and mulch. It's just a great place to to farm more naturally, more sustainably, and bring in super healthy fruit that just makes beautiful wine. So yeah, so it's just a wonderful climate.
Amazing. So how long? Mullineux? When was the inception of Mullineux? How long are we?
So we started in 2008. That was our first vintage. And interestingly enough, it seems like not such a long time ago, but 2008 was Swartland was a pretty unknown wine region. I think there were maybe 7 or 8 wineries here. Ibn Sadi had just moved to the region and started making obviously Columella and Palladius, and I suppose that was really the catalyst that brought a lot of other producers here. So yeah, we got to know Ibn really well and his wines really well, and we're just blown away that this beautiful landscape that was relatively unknown in terms of wine could make these incredible wines with a lot of intensity, a lot of concentration, a lot of complexity, but at the same time, yeah, an amazing balance and freshness at the same time. So yeah, so Andrew and I moved here in 2007, and 2008 was our first vintage.
Yeah, amazing. So you and Andrew kind of before you said Swartland, was that right?
Yeah. So yeah, we worked we were basically, both graduated from university and worked at other wineries before. I studied at Stellenbosch. Andrew is from California, studied at UC Davis and worked in California. And yeah, we both met working in the south of France. And Andrew and I worked together in Tulbagh for about 4 years before starting our own project. Yeah.
Amazing. So was it took over you? Is that why you decided the wine from this amazing soil profile there?
Yeah. So basically, at the winery we were working at before, we weren't in a state, so we had some of our own vineyards, but we were also buying in fruit from different regions in South Africa. So a bit from Stellenbosch, a little bit from Elgin, Breda Valley, Tulbagh, and Swartland. But really, the wines that we made from the Swartland every year just blew us away. They were wines with incredible intensity, incredible personality, and this great purity without us having to manipulate them in the winery. You use a lot of new oak or pick super ripe or use enzymes and tannins and acidification. They just were beautiful wines that just kind of naturally came out the vineyard. So yeah, so when it came time for us to start our winery, it was kind of just an obvious choice. Swartland was the place. Yeah.
So I guess on that note, let's talk about the and since I've been slightly at Boston.
Yeah, my bottle's pretty empty as well, by the way. And I'm on my own.
Talk to us.
Yes, so Cliff Street is really what we call it our introductory label. So in the Swartland we make two different labels, Cliff Street and then Mullineux. Mullineux is our flagship label. It's got our family name on it, so it's really our flagship range. Cliff Street is what we call our introduction wine. So it's a wine that's still made with the same attention to detail, the same sort of hands-off approach, still working with old vines, more sustainable farming and really, just very serious winemaking. But we're trying to make it in a style that's just beautifully fresh, beautifully crisp, not heavy, not overly extracted, or a wine that you need to age for a long time. So there's 2 wines. The Chenin is a blend of 2 vineyards, 2 old vine vineyards, both planted in the Paardeberg Mountains, so in the southern part of the Swartland. And these are quite deep, sandy soils. And we love that here because of our dry climate. Those soils allow the vines to grow a really deep root system that I suppose buffers them against our dry conditions. So it always keeps a nice low pH, nice fresh high acidity, and that goes great with that wonderful texture that you get from the Swartland and from these old vines.
It's wonderful fruit concentration as well across the palate. With Chenin, it kind of becomes buoyant, but this is very pristine in terms of how I envisage wine Chenin.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, sorry to interrupt, it's kind of a signature of all Swartland wines. So whether it's white or red, you're going to get a lot of concentration, a lot of, we say texture, so like mid-palate, not quite creaminess, but it's on the way to creaminess. So the wines always have this wonderful intensity on the palate, whether it's, you know, Chenin or any variety. And that's really our sense of place. You need to taste sunshine when you taste South African wine. We've got a lot of sunshine here, so it's really the signature of the region. But what's our key is to try and express that, but do it in a balanced way. So to have texture, have intensity, but also have freshness.
Yeah.
You know, it needs to have energy. It mustn't be an overbearing style of wine. Yeah.
We don't want overbearing wine. So let's what here makes old vine Chenin? So at what point does it become old Chenin?
Yes, so every country and region, I think, obviously has different definitions. Here in South Africa, 35 years is the kind of cutoff for old vines. So anything 35 years and older in South Africa is referred to as old vines. And that kind of equates to about 1% of our total hectareage here in between 1 and 2% of all the vineyards in South Africa. We're lucky to have, it's about 2,000, just under 2,000 hectares of old vines in South Africa. So that's what the cutoff is. And I mean, a lot of people know about old vines, what makes them special. For us, I think what really makes them interesting is when vines are young, they're super productive. You get a lot of crop, you know, a lot of fruit, and the wine can be beautiful, but sometimes it lacks a bit of that intensity, that richness. And that's when in the cellar you do have to resort to kind of winemaking tricks to make the wine rich. But with old vines, the yields are much smaller, the bunches and berries are tiny, so you get a lot of natural concentration, natural richness without having to pick ripe or do anything funny in the winery. And the other great thing is the vines, you know, 35 years old, it's kind of like people, you know, once you get into your 30s, 40s, you become a bit wiser, you kind of calm down a bit. You still have a few late nights, but you've learned to, you've learned to pace yourself a little bit more, I suppose. That's the thing. And old vines do the same. The yields come down a bit, and they're much more consistent, even through big droughts, that kind of thing. So the quality from vintage to vintage is just super consistent.
Well, I think this one incredible value, ladies and gentlemen. If you are looking for a white this should be on your hit list. It's I wanted to talk on farming a little bit more, because you mentioned, you know, you don't have to pesticide. To get a lot of organics and stuff. Thing moving toward it. Do you practice
so you broke up a little bit, but I think you're talking about like farming and specifically to do with irrigation. I think that was what you were chatting about. So yeah, we do. Obviously, it's a super dry climate where we are. In the Swartland, you kind of, in a good vintage, will have about 400, maybe 450 millimeters of rain, and that's in a good vintage. Mel, I don't know if your audio is not 100%. I also sometimes struggle with you.
Let me move move.
Cool.
There we go.
So often where we are, the rainfall is a big limiting factor. So farming becomes extremely important. You know, even if you want to irrigate, it's a challenge. You can't irrigate because there's just no water to irrigate with. So it becomes important to firstly plant the right grape variety in the right place. You know, if you're planting grapes like Cab or Merlot or Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay here in the Swartland, it's perfectly legal, but those grapes are going to struggle. They're not that well adapted to growing in these dry conditions. So that's why things like Syrah, Grenache are, you know, much better adapted and evolved to warm climates and dry climates. But then also farming is really important. You know, it's very easy to just, you know, spray your soil dead with herbicides and have, you know, no life on the soil. But then the vines become quite dependent on irrigation. So we far prefer to, you know, not work with those and just use cover crops and mulch to keep weeds under control. And that really builds the life in the soil, the organic matter in the soil, and that helps to keep moisture in the soil, which then feeds the vines. So farming in the Swartland is extremely important, but farming the soil is really the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I going fuzzy?
Sorry, say that again? Yeah, you keep unfortunately breaking up a little bit here and there.
How bad. I was actually talking about organics, Chris, and understanding about organics in South Africa specifically. I don't know a lot about the organic program or what South Africa is doing in regards to organic programs, so I kind of wanted to understand from an industry perspective what's happening in South Africa, but equally, is that something Mullineux is working towards?
Yeah, cool. Well, firstly, I can hear you much better now. So wherever you're sitting or doing is cool. So it's actually quite a good question because we have a fantastic climate for organic farming. You know, being warm and dry, it would be naturally be a much more easy, I suppose, place to farm more naturally and farm organically specifically. But there's only a handful of producers who are certified organic. So you think of Reinecker, Avondale, there's a handful, but it's not as dominant as it would be, say, in the Loire or Beaujolais. And I'm not sure why that is. It may be culture, it may be sort of I don't know, tradition, or it's not a strong part or motivation for a lot of farmers to farm more naturally. Our approach is generally, I suppose, we use what the French would call lutte raisonnée, which is reasoned farming. So our whole aim with all of our wines is really to try and produce the best possible wine we can every vintage. And we truly believe that the best way to do that is by natural or organic farming. So as soon as you start interfering with man-made fertilizers or pesticides or herbicides, you really start to mess up with the natural balance in the vineyard. And when you bring grapes into the winery, they often have imbalances. So a lack of concentration or a lack of acidity or too much sugar. And then you start needing to manipulate the grapes in the winery to make special wine. So we truly follow pretty much organic practices, but it's about trying to have balanced fruit to bring into the winery to make the best possible wine. But we still, maybe it's just tradition in South Africa, but we're not certified organic because we still, I suppose, are a little bit nervous of 1 out of 10 vintages where there is a lot of rain and we do have challenges. So maybe we need to take that leap of faith. But yeah, it's still quite being fully certified organic is still limited to probably 10 or 12 wineries in South Africa.
What is the timeline and process? Is it much different to the likes of, or is it kind of time like 5 years in New Zealand? Is it fully? Yeah,
no, it's the same to become certified. Yeah, no, it's the same. I mean, so basically, I think that's maybe one of the reasons is we don't have any official organizations here in South Africa that can certify you organic or biodynamic. So we need to fly them out from Europe, whether it's Demeter or FGS, to come and do the audits. So that may be one of the limiting factors where it is quite expensive, relatively speaking, to become certified here. But it's the same time. It's 3 years conversion, and then so it's a 3 to 5 year process. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize to fly them out to become certified. It's a huge.
Yeah. I mean, we're still, relatively speaking, a small industry. Someone needs to set up a body here in South Africa. It might be easier.
Hey, you've had 2020, haven't you, with a bit of drama down there in regards to COVID?
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy year.
What happened? It affected you guys in production?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, lockdown kind of started towards the end of the vintage. So we were pretty much, at our winery, we had finished harvesting, so all the fruit was in the winery, but we were still fermenting all the wine. And then, COVID hit, and our government decided that they had to lock down non-essential companies or services. And at the time, they kind of put a blanket ban on agriculture, which they didn't, for some reason, think was an essential service. So wineries were not allowed to operate. So technically, if we had grapes in the vineyards ripening, we were not allowed to go and pick them. And in the winery as well, if we had fermentations on the go, we were not allowed to go in and, you know, do pump overs or check the temperatures or press anything out or anything. So yeah, it was, I mean, a crazy rule. Most wineries didn't really follow the rules, so I'd say pretty much everybody just carried on as normal.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical in South Africa. We've got super strict laws, but there's no enforcement. So yeah, we all kind of carried on, obviously using safety protocols and that kind of thing. But we finished off the harvest. But within about a week, the government realized that it was a totally insane rule that they had made. So they basically made all farming, so including grape growing and winemaking, they made it an essential service. So we were allowed to carry on in terms of production as normal. So that was the first obstacle. And then the second obstacle was the government then decided that alcohol was a huge risk in terms of social behavior. So they put a ban on all alcohol sales because they were worried that, you know, when people go out and have fun, they become a little bit irresponsible. They forget about social distancing. They maybe have a little bit too much to drink and may get into bar fights or that kind of thing. So they put pressure on the health system.
Yeah.
So just to make life easy, they just put a complete blanket ban on all wine sales, whether it was for local consumption or exports. It was a very tough time. It was about a month of total lockdown. Then they kind of changed their mind for about 2 weeks, where they said, okay, you guys can export but not sell locally. And then they shut down exports again. It was very challenging, to say the least.
Crazy times. And by all accounts, it sounds like wines will be treated by 2020. Did you manage to get into the wine throughout lockdown?
Yeah, so you're breaking up again there. Sorry, I can't quite hear you. Great.
Will the wines be affected by
lockdown? Yeah, no, I think the quality of the wines. No, we like I said, we were lucky that the lockdown happened towards the end of the vintage. So for us, all the harvest was in. We were just kind of finishing up the last maybe 10% of the fermentation. So the vintage, I don't think in terms of quality was affected whatsoever. It was more the impact on the kind of the financial status of a lot of wineries who were not able to sell wine. That was the real challenge.
Tough time. But I'm glad.
I mean, the irony is there was a lot of bootlegging going on in South Africa. We of course would never do that kind of thing. Never. But so a lot of wineries had to rely on exports mostly. But there was still a lot of bootlegging going on, and obviously the government lost out on all that revenue on the excise and taxes. So it wasn't a very well thought out process. Yeah.
But here we are. Hey, let's talk about flagship wine. This little baby.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So 2017 Mullineux Syrah. So this is really our flagship wine. It's 100% Syrah, and Syrah is really a grape that's fantastically adapted to the Swartland. As I've explained, the Swartland being warm and dry is suited more to Mediterranean varieties. So grapes, whether it's from southern Italy or France or Spain, they're grapes that work really well. And Syrah is really a great example of that. I think it's a grape that's extremely at home here. This Syrah, we bottle a couple of Syrahs. This one is what we call our flagship Syrah. It's a blend of different vineyards from different parts of the Swartland together. So it's not a single vineyard or single estate Syrah. We do bottle a couple of other Syrahs that are single vineyards. And what we're doing here is blending Syrah from different soil types. So we have Syrah planted in the Paardeberg Mountain, which I explained is those very deep sandy soils, which bring great freshness and perfume into this wine, which I think on the nose you'll pick up a lovely floral character, a bit of sort of more dark pepper. So we don't really get white pepper in the Swartland. It's a bit too warm for that. So more sort of black pepper and bell pepper. Then we have another soil type, which is called schist, which is very shallow, rocky slate soils, which makes much more tannic structured wine with a lot of dark fruit. And then a third swirl type, which is iron rich, which gives a lot of mid palate and velvetiness. So this is always a blend of those three together.
It just pulls together so perfectly. The Syrah, it's got all of the beautiful qualities from those soil profiles. It just is so balanced, wonderful fruit concentration, but also that fresh.
Mel, you're frozen again.
Sorry,
hopefully somebody more.
Somebody just called me. I'm like, can you get me, please?
Is it your mom saying, you're on Instagram?
How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Hey, how are you going?
Good, just prepping for bottling on Monday. So it's always hard to bottle on Monday when you have to get it all ready on a Friday night.
Yeah, so your Friday night's looking rocking, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
You're done now.
Yeah, I'm done now. I'm done now.
So we've just been through listening all about your Mullineux story, but we're just tasting the 2017 flagship Syrah right now, and it's absolutely divine.
Cool.
Yeah, so Chris has done a wonderful job at introducing Mullineux and telling your story, all about who you are and what you are. But I do have a couple of questions for you, Andrea, if I may.
The sound's a bit tricky already.
Can you hear me properly? Should I pick it up? Is that
yeah, it breaks up like maybe 25% of the time. So, but we can make up what you said.
piece it together. Question for you both, but because Andrea's just joined and she hasn't done any chatting, I thought maybe she could answer. Just looking at Swartland specifically, the last decade, what's been the biggest change or the biggest learning from Swartland as a region?
For me, I think it's, when we all came to the region, a lot of us focused on Syrah and on Chenin and other varieties that classically did well in the area. But we're realizing that, we're kind of on the edge in terms of the climate and what we can achieve being dry land, so not irrigating. And so a lot of us have started planting experimental varieties. Things like Acertico and Vermentino and, or for us, experimental varieties. We've also planted Verdelho and just seeing what else does well in the Swartland besides the traditional varieties. So I think that's definitely, we're all kind of settling down and maturing and really focusing on looking towards the future.
Brilliant. Chris kind of referred to that as getting into your 30s, becoming a little bit mature, understanding, right? Hey, what's sparking your interest, Andrea, in terms of varietals? I heard you say Acertico, which is, I love Acertico, but what grape varietals that you're trialing excite you?
Well, right now, probably the most exciting thing that we have on the farm. The Acertico we just planted, so we won't know for a few more years, but the Verdelho is just stunning. So it's the Portuguese Verdelho, and it's brings such a limey acidity. So even picking it at a potential alcohol, this year we picked it a little bit later, so it was like almost 14% alcohol by the time it was done, but it had a TA of 9, which is just off the charts. So anything where you can pick it fully ripe and still have an amazing searing acidity is, it's happy. So you can't fault that.
Fair. Well, we look forward to trialing that up here. Hey, we've got a couple of questions. What are you bottling on Monday and which vintage?
So yeah, I've just tried to reply. So it's actually Mullineux Syrah 2019.
Okay.
That's
you replying.
Sorry?
So flagship Mullineux 2019 Syrah.
Yeah, Mullineux Syrah 2019. So that will be in bottle for a year before we release it. So it's going to be bottled maybe just over a year. So bottled on Monday and then released early in 2022. So.
Yeah, with our red wines, we like them to have some bottle age because even though the Swartland tannins are already kind of soft, we love releasing it when it's like just closer to being ready to drink.
Yeah.
When it's ready, as opposed to prior to that, right? Hey, tell us about what the vision is for Mullineux for the next 20 years. Do you have a vision? Where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think, you know, we've gone through a lot of changes the last, sort of 10, 12 years. We started out making just 3 wines. So our old wines, white, the Syrah and straw wine. And, you know, we then added closely to the portfolio, and then our single terroir wines. So I think we now bottle 13 wines in the Swartland. And really now it's about trying to just refine what we have. It's you know, really thinking about everything we have and we're working with, and trying to just constantly improve it rather than add new things to the portfolio. It's always tempting when you find a new vineyard or a new thing to work with. But I think for us, really just trying to focus on the farming and making wine that has a proper, true sense of place is key for us, and that's a long journey. You know, it's not something you can get right in the first 5 years or even the first 10 years. It takes a long time to, you know, have to be committed to the place and get to know it. So,
but also by then our children will be like graduated from university, and maybe will be grandparents. So like, yeah, they'll be the next generation of winemakers and viticulturists, which is just awesome.
Time to retire by then, won't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing with winemaking and viticulture is like you never really retire until probably the next generation kicks you out of the cellar because then you're old school. But it's, you know, it's such an exciting prospect to be, you know, passing the torch to the next generation as well, you know, and letting them start to shine.
Yeah. How incredible. How incredible. Oh, well, I've so enjoyed learning about your story. We do have another question here. Any preferences between iron, schist, and granite?
Ooh. It's like asking about children. But I mean, look, I think, you know, for me, near and dear to my heart, I love the structure of schist. You know, I love just that kind of brooding punch of power that it brings. So for me, I personally love the schist, and it happens to be, you know, our home vineyard as well. It's where we live, is actually in the schist vineyard.
Yeah, it's also the wine that's in a way the most consistent. It's the wine that we make every vintage. It's funny. One of our kind of unicorn wines is the Côte Brune that Jamais makes in Côte Rôtie. Yeah. And I've never ever tasted it. I've never been able to find a bottle. And 3 years ago, we eventually went to visit the winery, and finally, you know, in the barrel cellar, got to go and taste I think it was 2017 Côte Brune. There was like a barrel that just said Brune on it. And before, you know, the wine was poured in our glass, I said to them, like, what makes this wine so special? Like, what is it about the taste that to you makes it so special that you bottle it on its own every year? And they looked at me and they're like, no, it's not the taste, it's the site, and it's a site that year on year on year is perfect on its own. We don't have to do anything to it. We don't have to blend any other vineyards with it. It's just perfect on its own. And for us, I think that's what our schist vineyard is. It's really a vineyard that every vintage is just awesome on its own. So it's the one of the single terroir wines that we bottle every vintage, whereas the iron and the granite is not every vintage.
Requires a little bit more love. Requires a little bit more love.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I've got one final, very random question for you both.
For Andre.
Sparkling wine. Are you going to do it?
Sparkling wine. Well, we do make some Method Ancestral. We don't export any of it because it'll probably explode on the way. You know, we're still kind of refining it because of Method Ancestral, you know, since it's only one fermentation in bottle, it's harder to predict where it's going to end up. But, you know, we do believe that any wine we make, we only want to make what we feel that we're specialized in, and to do a Method Champenois or Method Cap Classique, you know, we're not the experts for that in South Africa. So we definitely leave it up to the people that have perfected it, you know. Colmont, Lalude, Valera, they're making like the most awesome sparkling wines in South Africa. Peter Ferreira, So for now, if you want South African sparkling wine, stick with those guys.
Go elsewhere. Go elsewhere. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for making beautiful wines. We love selling them. We love drinking them. They do have a sense of place. And although, you know, we are predominantly Kiwi, we are bringing a small amount of South African producers into our fold, and we love having you in our fold. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, you introduced me to one of the absolute best Chardonnays in the world, the Cameo River. So I always have you to thank for that. Yeah. It's a really inspiring, mind-blowing wine. So thank you.
Pleasure. All right. On that note, guys, have a good night. And thanks again. Good luck with bottling on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Mel. Thanks so much.